another wacky Wednesday edition of Bet is here. I'm Tyler Fulghum. She is Erin Dolan. We're rocking with you for the next 30 minutes. Going to have a lot of fun. Our good friend Ramona Shelburne is going to join us as we dive further into the NBA playoff play-in and playoff scenarios. That should be fun. We will handicap the two playoff play-in games we have tonight. We got the good word. We will, before we let you go, throw another bet your way. Just a little cherry on top. ED, I like the green. It is bright. It is vibrant. I kind of have a bright, vibrant purple watch going here. So we're ready to shine today. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. It's the first day. It's been nice here. It's 82 degrees here in the state of Pennsylvania. We have not had this in so long, so I was trying to enjoy the day, wear some bright colors, brighten the mood up a little bit.
That's just downright steamy. I haven't seen 52 since like December, and I mean that as like a low temperature. I've been playing golf in 75-degree weather for the better part of the last 2 or 3 months.
Don't rub it in.
Sorry to rub it in.
Don't rub it in.
Sorry. You know the drill. If you haven't already done so, maybe you're watching here right now, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting, where you can find all of our goodies. But let's dive in, ED. And on Wednesday, we like to flex our grammatical skills, our mastery of the English language. It's the good word. I'm going to read a statement. You give me the first word that pops into your head and explain why it did so. We'll start in Major League Baseball. If you hadn't noticed, Guardians rookie Stephen Kwan is off to a white-hot start. He is now 6-1 to win the AL Rookie of the Year. He opened the season at 75-1, but you see the stats there. That's why people have been jumping on him. What's your good word for Kwan now at 6-1 for AL Roy?
This is the toughest word I think I've ever given you, but pendulum, because in baseball, things swing back and forth. It is so early in the season. Very impressive. Everybody's talking about this player. And on top of that, he was trending on Twitter, and he's, a rookie. And his first time at bat, he went 9 for 13 to start the season. How impressive is that? And I thought this stat was pretty interesting. In 4-game series against Kansas City, he was the first player in live ball era, which is since 1920, to reach 15 bases in his first 4 career games. So, of course, he's going to fly down the odds boards. We expect him to do that. He's been playing great. He's also playing right now, and he hasn't seemed to slow down just yet. But I do think in baseball, everything swings up, swings down. There's so many highs, so many lows. So eventually, I think you'll get a better price if you do think that he's going to have a great standout season.
Love the word. My mom is a wordsmith, and she challenged me to have an impressive vocabulary. If she is watching, I'm sure she's impressed with the level of word that you use there, and I think I spelled that correctly, pendulum. Mine is not going to be that big of a word. It's actually the opposite. It's small. Very easy word that we've known since we were about 2 or 3 how to spell, and the reason I'm using it is that this is small sample size overreaction. Everyone calm down. It's 15 at-bats. You know how many people over the course of the 162-game season are going to have a 15 at-bat sample size somewhere in their year where they have 10 hits, 4 RBIs, and an OPS of 1,600 or better? It's going to happen for probably like 50% of major league hitters. That's part of that pendulum that you're talking about. It swings back and forth. So Kwan, yes, kudos for the great start, but come on, man. This is a massive overreaction to small sample size theater. There are other rookies like Julio Rodriguez in Seattle, Bobby Witt Jr., my pick of the Kansas City Royals, who I think are much wiser bets, even though they have shorter odds than Kwan, because this small sample size won't extend over the course of the next 4 months and 162 games. All right, let's move it now to the National Football League. Erin, we have kind of a logjam at the top of the odds board for NFL Coach of the Year. 8 coaches, a quarter of the league, have 15-1 odds or better for Coach of the Year. What is your good word?
Madness. This entire offseason for the NFL has been absolute madness. We haven't even entered the NFL draft yet. It's been absolutely insane. All these roster moves is what is making so many coaches be 15-1. It's basically a completely open field. So I went back and I looked at the list of coaches that have won in the previous years. And the one thing I noticed is these teams had a lot of wins, great records. You weren't seeing 18 wins, 19-win coaches winning this award naturally. But at the same time, you have, Russ is going to be on the Broncos. Carson Wentz is on the Colts. You don't know what's going on in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. So there's just so many quarterback changes. And also, you have Tyreek Hill. He's now on the Miami Dolphins. Devontae Adams. He's now with the Raiders. There's just so much going on. So a couple of coaches that stuck out to me. One, Bill McDermott at the Bills, play really well this season, put up a ton of wins, but their strength of schedule is a little bit tough, so a little bit concerned about that. And also, Kevin Stefanski, we have to mention it. Let's say Deshaun Watson is allowed to play at, starting week 1. There's still a lot of things going on with that situation. He has a great season considering that their defense was so good and they're able to get a ton of wins. I know they're in a tough division, but there are some coaches, who might be a little bit of sleeper picks. We've seen him win this award already.
Yeah, I agree with the madness there, and I think it has been so mad. You accidentally said Carson Wentz went to the Colts. We know, obviously, he left the Colts to go to the Commanders. But it's hard to keep track of all this here, Edie.
I'm sorry. Commanders, all the C's. I'm sorry. That's my bad. That's my bad. I know where Carson Wentz goes because I'm a Carson Wentz hater.
And we're not gonna say Commanders. That's how we still say San Diego Chargers or Oakland Raiders. It's gonna take a while. These franchises will have to get used to us.
But when you're only there for a
the
season, Tyler.
I know. Listen, all is good. You have been forgiven. It is madness, like you said. It's hard to keep up with. And because of that madness, Erin, follow me here. This is why I'm going to write this word here. It is Tomlin, as in Mike Tomlin. He is not one of those 8 coaches at 15-1 or better. He's actually sitting at 45-1. And I think that is tremendous value for a head coach in 15 seasons of National Football League duty, has never once had a losing season. I think this year, Mitchell Trubisky will be an upgrade over 2021 Ben Roethlisberger. We know what they have on defense, reigning Defensive Player of the Year in T.J. Watt. Their offensive line should be a little bit better. Najee Harris is a year older. Even with the departure of Juju Smith-Schuster, Trubisky has good weapons to work with, like Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and the rookie tight end from a year ago, and Pat Freiermuth. This is a head coach who has given us as a floor 8 or 9 wins each and every season. And if somehow he gets Mitchell Trubisky to quarterback him to the playoffs or an AFC North Division title, Mike Tomlin will definitely get votes for Coach of the Year, and he'd probably be my pick for NFL Coach of the Year. Right now it's at 45-1, so as Anita Mark would say, run, don't walk on Mike T. All right, let's go back to the NBA here, or go to the NBA, I should say, for our final as we segue into the playoff play-in and the playoff picture. The Golden State Warriors, Erin, they are plus 325 to win the series versus the Nuggets in 5 games. Of course, they're favored in the series, regardless of how many games it takes. But if you want to get the exact number of games required, a 4-1 win for the Warriors in 5 games is plus 325. Got a good word for that?
The first thing that comes to mind is Curry, as in Steph Curry. I am really concerned about his foot injury. I know he's on the mend and things are looking up, but again, he hasn't played for quite some time, and he's obviously one of their biggest stars. I know Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, they can hold it down, but the Denver Nuggets might surprise us in this one. I don't see them rolling over easily and just getting 1 win. I see them getting 2 or 3 wins. I think that, series prices like this in terms of how many games or how long a series will be is great value. I talked about this actually today on This Just In with the Sixers-Raptors game going to Game 7. I just don't think in this particular series it will be, the Warriors winning 4-1. I think Nikola Jokic will figure some things out. They also will have a chance to play at home. I just see them getting at least 2 wins off this team, unless Steph Curry enters the lineup and just shoots absolutely lights out and looks like, the normal Steph Curry in form. But I don't think it's something I'm looking to bet.
Yep, I'm with you there, and I clarified as in Steph Curry, not the food. Curry, which is a delight. I love it, whether it's red curry, green curry, whatever the case may be. I'm going to say, similar to you, just a big pass. Too much uncertainty over the aforementioned Steph Curry. Too much respect, Erin, for our league's MVP last year and the man who I think should win it for a second straight year, Nikola Jokic. Even without Michael Porter Jr. and without Jamal Murray, he has been awesome this year, and those supplementary or complementary pieces have done enough because he usually gets them wide open shots and does all the rebounding, plays good defense despite not having great defensive traits. So the price is intriguing, but I actually think the Nuggets can win a couple of games in this series given the uncertainty over Curry. Don't forget Draymond Green hasn't exactly been 100% healthy this entire season, and the Warriors' defense has not been what we are used to seeing. So I will pass because of that uncertainty over Curry. And, of course, Nikola Jokic just being an absolute beast. All right, like I said, Ramona Shelburne will be joining us in a few moments, but let's take our turn and our opportunity to whet the appetite of our NBA fans here on Bet and dive into these matchups we'll see on Wednesday night in the playoff play-in scenario. The first game we have to look at, the Hornets and the Hawks in the Eastern Conference. This is the 9-10 matchup. Winner of this advances to face the Cavaliers, who of course lost to the Brooklyn Nets, and whoever wins that game will be officially your 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. So for this matchup, 9-10, Hawks a home 5.5-point favorite, total of 235.5, but it's crashing from where it opened. You see the team split the first 4 meetings this season. Erin, what is your play for Wednesday night?
So I actually want to back the Hornets here. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I want the points in my pocket, the 5.5 points. I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, Gordon Hayward's not going to be in the lineup. Well, in fact, they are 13-5 without Hayward towards the end of the season in their last 18 games. On top of that, they have shooters. This was really impressive when I read this today. 55% shooting from field goal range, 37% shooting from 3. LaMelo Ball, he could go off in this game. Miles Bridges has been absolutely impressive. Now, for the Atlanta Hawks, this was also a stat that made me gear towards the Hornets because I was going back and forth on this. But they were able to limit Trae Young during the regular season to 20.8 points on 37.7% shooting. So that was in their meetings. We also saw the Hornets were able to beat this team by 10 points. But again, you had mentioned they had split the series. I just think this will be a tough competitive game. Both teams are going to try to shoot lights out. The Atlanta Hawks defense has progressively gotten a little bit better. Same thing with the Hornets. Both teams are kind of getting hot at the same time. So for me, I think I want to take the dog in this situation. Also, when you're looking at this total, I'm leaning under. It's not something I'm going to bet, but all these matchups have gone under. And we saw yesterday, the 2 playing games, both those games go under. So we're seeing teams take this really serious and give their all on the defensive end. So I would lean under in this one as well.
We're on the same side of this, sister, in both ways. I don't have it as my official pick that we're going to pop there, but I lean Hornets. I like them better than the Hawks. The only reason I'm staying away from the side officially is because the Hawks have been a really, really good team at home, and that's that one bullet point that concerns me. But I agree with you. The under is the play here, despite the fact that it has crashed 4 points from where it opened. I loved it earlier in the week when it was 239.5. I said, hammer, hammer, hammer the under. People have listened. Listen, it's now down to 235.5, and this is my absolutely lowest point where I'll say under again before I just jump off and pass on the total. But I do think, based on what we've seen in the 4 matchups between these 2 teams this year, that under is the play. They have played 4 times, Erin, and in those 4 games, the average total points scored is 225.8. And that includes a game where the 2 combined for 257 points. So there's one massive outlier. And then every other game was 222, 204, and 220. These teams 3-1 to the under when they have played this season, and I think that trend will continue, especially since this is a do-or-die playoff game where possessions will be more measured and defensive effort will be more intense. So I, like you, lean that Hornet side. I don't like that the numbers come all the way down from where it was earlier in the week when I bought it, but I will still offer up under as the right side of the total of 235.5. You mentioned how both games went under yesterday by an average of 10.5 points from the closing total. All right, second matchup in the Western Conference. 9-10, again, you know the drill here. Winner of this Spurs and Pelicans game advances to take down the Clippers, who lost to the T-Wolves yesterday. San Antonio is a 5.5-point road dog, but you see this season, they were 3-1 straight up and ATS against New Orleans. Erin, what do you like here?
So I like the dog again in this matchup. And just quickly want to mention the total. I am not betting this. I'm staying away from it. It opened 230 and has just continuously come down. It makes me so nervous, this total. I don't know why it's moving to this extent. So I'm staying away from that. Maybe they're thinking something's going on with Brandon Ingram because he is expected to be playing in this game but has missed some time. But just overall, you look at the Spurs and yes, they're 3-1, but I'm sure people are factoring in just slightly that, you know, CJ McCollum has now been added into the lineup for the Pelicans, so they should be a much better all-around team. But defensively, they're still not clicking. And in the last 15 games, they're allowing opponents to shoot really well from 3. They're terrible at defending it, ranked 28th. So I think that in this game, you're going to have players like DeJounte Murray and other players on the Spurs side really be able to put up some points. And I think this will be a closer game than people expect. I mean, like you mentioned, they did cover in those 3 of those 4 games. But I'm going to go with a dog in this one, but I'm staying away from the total. It's moved too much.
Yeah, I'm staying away from the total as well, and I'm in agreement with you as well. I like the Spurs plus 5.5. I think it's worth a sprinkle on the money line at plus 180. Greg Popovich, obviously a massive coaching advantage over Willie Green, and that says nothing about Willie Green except for the fact that he's coaching against one of the all-time greats, a guy who's on Mount Rushmore. Of course, the Spurs have the advantage there. I think DeJounte Murray will be the best basketball player on the floor. He is one of now just 2 players in NBA history, Erin, who have had a season where they averaged 20 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals per game, joining some guy named Michael Jordan, who I think played in like the 80s or 90s, I'm told. So that's it. Murray and MJ, the only two to ever have that stat line. I think you can have a big game in this bad boy. And the Spurs were hot on the road down the stretch. They won 5 of their final 7 road games and had a plus 7.7 net rating. So I like the spot for them where I'm taking 5.5 points on the scoreboard. All right, that's a look at how we're handicapping. Let's dive further into these matchups here and the rest of the NBA postseason with a little game of take your pick. You know the drill here, Aaron. You just tell me which one you prefer to place your money on. We'll start with that Hawks and Hornets matchup. 2 snipers from downtown, Terry Rozier, Bogey Bogdanovic. Which would you rather wager goes over 3.5 made 3-point field goals, both at a price of plus 130?
Well, let me just first say that neither of these players have hit over this number in any of the matchups that they've played against each other. And I've been going back and forth on this, and part of me wanted to take Terry Rozier because the Atlanta Hawks on the season weren't great at defending the perimeter, but in the last 15 games, they've really improved. So I'm going to go with Bogdanovic in this one. I think he could potentially get some shots up. But again, neither of these teams have been able to hit over that. It's not something I'd actually bet. But if I was having to pick between these two, I would go with Bogdanovic to go over 3.5 made threes.
Boom, we're in agreement. I'm on Bogey Bogdanovic as well. I know you said neither of these went over this total in any of the matchups, but in the last 10 games that Bogdanovic has played, he's made at least 4 triples in 6 of those. He also just takes a higher percentage of his shots from downtown. 58% of his field goal attempts this year were from beyond the arc. Rozier was only at 51%. So I think you just have a better chance with Bogdanovic. He's going to shoot more threes per shot. And I think the Hawks, as the favorite, of course, are going to have a higher point total. So more points, more threes, all these things line up for Bogey in this matchup. I like him alongside you. How about the Pels? 2 Pels, actually, and they match up against the Spurs. The 2 best players, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram. 35.5 par at a price of 125, minus 125 for Ingram. 36.5 par at a price of plus 105 for McCollum. Take your pick.
I'm going to go with Ingram despite this line coming down slightly. Now, I know a lot of people are talking about that injury, but I do see him being very valuable in this game. As for CJ McCollum, he's only hit over this points, assists, and rebounds prop, that number that's listed at right now, once in the last 8 games. And we've seen a lot these player props be super inflated for these play-in games, just given that, again, these games are really important and people want to bet the overs on some of these star players. So I would go with Ingram if I was picking between these two. But again, remember, some of these player props are inflated.
Yeah, I think we disagree here. I'm going to go with C.J. McCollum for a few reasons. Let's start with price. I love when I see a plus price, even if it's only 1 point, assist, or rebound higher. Don't have to wager as much, and I can win more. And McCollum's healthier than Brandon Ingram. Ingram, we know, has been dealing with, I think it's a hamstring. I'll double-check that, but he's been dealing with some injury. Hasn't played a game since April 5th, so I know he's going to play, but how healthy is he? And then third is matchup. McCollum has the easier defensive matchup than Brandon Ingram, who will get a lot of Devin Vassell on the perimeter, whereas someone like C.J. McCollum will see more DeJounte Murray or Josh Primo, and Murray gets those steal stats, but again, he's not this dynamic lockdown defender. So we disagree there. I like C.J. McCollum because of the price, the matchup, and I think he's just a little bit healthier. All right, let's move to a Game 1 cover. Mavs against the Jazz, Raptors against the Sixers. Both are 4.5-point dogs, Aaron. Take your pick.
It's tough for me, but I would go with the Raptors in this one. I'm still waiting to see what happens with Luka Doncic, but I think the Raptors are going to keep this game close. They're going to make a statement in this opening game. The Sixers also seem to play better when they're on the road than when playing at home. And I just think the Raptors, their offense is getting better. Their defense is definitely improving over the last month. And I think they're going to be a really tough competitor for this Philadelphia 76ers. And they might even expose them. And James Harden better stop talking about how he doesn't feel any added pressure, because I feel pressure for him.
That's spoken like a Sixer fan there. I'm with you. I'm going to take the Raptors plus 4.5. Luka's status being unclear, even though I have no faith in the Jazz whatsoever. I need Luka to be playing to have some faith in those Dallas Mavericks. And look at Toronto this season. You see that they're 3-1 against Philadelphia. That includes going 2-0 against the Sixers after they acquired James Harden. And Harden played in both of those games. One in Philadelphia, which the Raptors won. One north of the border, which the Raptors won. Of course, Matisse Thybulle couldn't play in that game. But you look at the only game that Philadelphia won against Toronto this season. It was earlier in the year. They won the game by 5 points. But in that game, Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby did not play. That's 60% of the starting lineup for the Raptors. Whenever they've had their entire starting lineup, they've beat this Sixers team whether Harden was there or not. So I like them plus the points because I think they can win the game outright. We're in agreement on that one against your 76ers. All right. Speaking of your 76ers, take your pick on the number of games in a series. Now, both of these are a plus 190 price, so you just tell me which one you think is more likely to happen. Sixers Raptors go to 7 games, or Bulls Bucks go to 5 games, and most people think that'd be because the Bucks are winning the series 4-1, not the Bulls winning the series 4-1. But take your pick. Which series do you like at an exact game number?
I like 76ers Raptors to go to a Game 7. We saw what happened last year in the playoffs, that Game 7 with the Atlanta Hawks and Philadelphia 76ers. I just don't trust this team, especially when it comes to the postseason. I'm also right now not trusting James Harden. He just hasn't looked like he's been in normal form. Matisse Thybulle is not going to be able to play on the road. Joel Embiid can still put up big numbers. It's not saying that certain players won't have incredible games, but at the same time, this Toronto Raptors team just all around seems to be a better team. Defensively, they're second ranked in defensive rating over the last 15 games. Their offense, again, is healthy. And like you mentioned, they already beat this team. They played twice since March 20th. James Harden and Embiid played in those games. They still lost outright to the Toronto Raptors. So I think the Sixers team is in some trouble, and I think this will go to a Game 7.
All right, I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm going to go to the other side, but I'd rather bet the Bucks and Bulls at 5 games, and that is, of course, assuming that it's the Bucks that win that series 4-1. I think there's a number of potential outcomes in the Sixers-Raptors. 7 games, 6 games, 5 games, 4 games. The Raptors could sweep them. Maybe the Sixers get hot and sweep them. I don't know. I think there's only 2 possible outcomes in the Bulls-Bucks series. Either the Bucks win 4-0 or the Bucks win 4-1 because the Bulls had a great night and stole 1 game. So I think there's just really a better probability on that Bucks-Bulls side. That's why I will go with that at plus 190 as the pick I like for that exact series game number. All right, we'll stick around in the NBA, but earlier you heard us talking about those Golden State Warriors, and would they be able to beat the Denver Nuggets in 5 games? Let's dive further into the association and get some inside nitty-gritty from someone in the know. Our good friend Ramona Shelburne joining us now here on Bet. Ramona, as always, we appreciate you taking the time to stop by Bet and have some fun with us. All right, Steph Curry, that's what we want to first know about. That was the good word for Aaron earlier in the day. Injured his left foot in mid-March. We were kind of sold a bill of goods that he'd be available for this opening round. What is the latest, that you're hearing about his availability?
So there's more optimism around Steph Curry than I would say there is with Luka Doncic in the Mavs, but in being able to play early in this series. What he's got to do is get through a scrimmage that they're going to have on Thursday. If he comes through that scrimmage okay, there's an optimism that he would be cleared to play in this beginning part of the series. But I think you have to also look at how the Warriors compensate for Steph if he is or is not out. I mean, the expectation is he comes back at some point in this series, but if he's not there, that's just more on Draymond Green. Draymond Green is going to take a long time on Nikola Jokic defensively. That he wasn't there for any of the games they played this year, but Draymond is obviously that's what he does. And when Steph's not there, he takes in a bigger role in that offense. So that's a lot to put on a guy who has that back injury.
And Ramona, we have Luka Doncic with that unfortunate calf injury. He wasn't supposed to play in that finale because of too many texts, and they rescinded the 16th. So how do you see him with this injury going forward? How are the Mavs handling it? Are they expecting him to come back into the lineup, or how are they going to limit him, or what are they going to do in this situation?
Yeah, well, they're playing it cool with him. As you know, you heard Jason Kidd yesterday saying, well, we don't know. We'll prepare both ways. Look, I just do the math here. Normally when you have even the most mild version of this calf injury, it's 7 to 10 days. He got hurt on a Sunday, they play on a Saturday. That's not 7 days. So could he play? I'm sure he's a young guy. He's in really good condition. He could probably try to push it, but it doesn't seem smart to me. Also remember, this is the same leg that he hurt earlier in the year. He missed a bunch of time with an ankle injury on that left leg, and this is his left calf. So while those two things are not related, it is the same leg that you had a problem with earlier in the year. I think if you're preparing for this, I think they prepare mostly to be without him, at least at the start here, but it doesn't sound to be the serious version of that injury.
Ramona Shelburne, an NBA reporter by trade, but we might as well call her Dr. Ramona Shelburne because all we're doing is talking about injured stars in the NBA.
I know,
How
right?
about Ben Simmons and the Brooklyn Nets? We know they are now the 7th seed, going to take on the Boston Celtics in the first round. That'll be tough. They could certainly use Ben Simmons' defense against someone like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Is it possible he makes his debut in this first round? What's the latest you're hearing on his potential availability?
Yeah, possible is the word that people use. I don't see it, guys. I mean, like, he's had this back injury, hasn't played in 10 months. If he does come back, it's probably for a very limited amount of time, 10, 15 minutes. But he's not even sprinting yet. He hasn't progressed past 1-on-0s. So that seems like a lot of ground to make up in a short amount of time when you haven't played in 10 months. Now, people around him, people on the team, like when I say, like, would you really put him out there in the playoffs after what happened last year in the playoffs? I mean, this is when he had the breakdown in shooting and all the crisis of confidence. And the sense I get is they're telling him all you have to do is play a role. I mean, the sooner he can turn the page and play for the Nets and get some other memory in the forefront of his mind rather than what happened against the Hawks last year, the better. But if he comes back, it's going to be very limited, and I don't think it happens early in this series.
Dr. Ramona Shelburne, at least she stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night so she can pretend that she's a doctor. Breaking down, unfortunately, a lot of big stars in the NBA, and whether or not they'll be able to play in this postseason, we hate that that's the news, but she delivers it with the insight that we love. Ramona, we appreciate you dropping by and look forward to chatting throughout this NBA postseason.
You got it.
All right, Erin, by the way, you're kind of rocking a very similar color or fit to what Ben Simmons had on the bench. Did you see Ben Simmons in the green Prada? Oh, I can see that bothers you.
Well, this was like $4, and his was probably like 40,000. So there's a huge difference there. He had a ton more zeros. But I am surprised by his outfit choices, just knowing how much of the spotlight is on him right now. Maybe that's why he's coming up with these outfits. I don't know, but it seems a little bit much for somebody who hasn't played in a year. I don't know. Yeah. Not hating.
TJ Maxx versus Prada.
Kind of hating.
I mean, hey, TJ Maxx.
Tyler, this was Shein. This was below TJ Maxx.
I was saying mine is TJ. I don't know any female clothiers. I don't know what you go to. So anyway, Ramona was great as always. It has been a fun bet, but before we let you go, one more wager. Go anywhere in the sports world here. Any wager that you want, just one bet that you want to share with the viewers that they need to know about before we shut it down here on Wednesday. Erin, I'll let you lead it off before we let you go.
So we're trying to get into some Major League Baseball. I've been a little bit hit or miss. I need, a few weeks and a few months to kind of, pick up on some of these trends. But one thing I did notice is the Mariners today, Robbie Ray is going to be on the mound. As we know, he's the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. And at the same time, he's been really good already in his start. He had 5 strikeouts in 7 innings in his one career start already this season. But his strikeout prop was at 6.5, and I thought that, that seems very high. So what I was thinking about doing is taking the Mariners' first 5, because the pitcher for the White Sox is not going to be anything good, and I really think that the Mariners in the first 5 innings money line is the way to go in this game. I think Robbie Ray will be absolutely elite in this one.
Yeah, Erin, I'm picking up what you're putting down there. I do think that's going to be an interesting matchup between Ray and Keuchel. I am going to turn to a rather nondescript matchup. It's a favorite team we love to bet against, the Baltimore Orioles. Now, they're hosting the Milwaukee Brewers at the newly reconfigured Camden Yards. The total is set at 8, and I'm going to go under because of the pitching matchup. You got John Means on the bump for the home team. He is by far the best starter that the Baltimore Orioles have. He's a lefty, and nothing really scares me outside of Christian Yelich and maybe a bat or two in that Milwaukee lineup. Meanwhile, Corbin Burns, the reigning NL Cy Young, maybe you've heard of him, on the bump for the Brewers. And although he was rather mediocre in his first start of the season, he now gets to pitch against an Oriole lineup that scares no one, except if you're a lefty. They can do some damage against lefties, but Burns is a righty, and he's one of the best in all of Major League Baseball. And with that newly reconfigured left field, I think both pitchers have an advantage here to keep this game under 8 runs. If you look at the first 2 games in this series, it was a 2-0 final in Game 1. It was a 5-4 final last night, but there was a grand slam in that game. So kind of an outlier home run scenario. That's why with these 2 good pitchers on the bump, I'm going under 8. So a couple of baseball bets before we let you go. Erin, who's got fashion sense that is better than Ben Simmons. I know that for a fact. Wonderful show here today. Hope you got nothing but winners. And, of course, good luck to your Sixers throughout this postseason. She's Erin Dolan. I'm Tyler Fulghum. Hope you had a lot of fun. A big thanks to Ramona Shelburne for dropping by and playing doctor. Help us out with those injuries in the association. We will see you back here on Friday for another edition of Bet.